Good morning, class. Today we're going to talk about the cell transport, different types of cell transport. But before we start, we're going to review quickly this structure over here. So please tell me, what is this structure? This structure over here is called the cell membrane. Okay? And the cell membrane has all these components in it. So I want you to go one by one and then try to identify each of them. So the first one, phospholipid bilayer. Which one is the phospholipid bilayer? So this over here is the phospholipid bilayer. This is a phospholipid bilayer because we have two layers of it. Okay, so A will be phospholipid bilayer. Integral protein. Remember, integral proteins are those proteins that cross from one side to the other side. They're embedded in the cell membrane, okay? And usually they help transport things in and out of the cell, like bigger molecules. So B will be integral proteins. Fatty acids, tail. So the tails are part of the phospholipids. So here F is pointing at the phospholipids, right? But specifically at the tails of the phospholipids. So that will be F. Phosphate heads. Which one do you think would it be? So it will be G over here. These are the heads of the phospholipids. So G. Then peripheral proteins. So peripheral proteins, remember, are those proteins that are on top of the phospholipids and can also be on top of integral proteins. So in this case, we have this one over here. This is an a peripheral protein. And then cholesterol. Remember that the function of the cholesterol is when temperatures tend to drop, then it keeps that cushion, so the phospholipids, they don't stay super rigid and packed together. And when low temperatures are present, high temperatures are present, then it tends to keep them together, because at high temperatures they tend to loosen it up, so we don't want to compromise the cell membrane. So the cholesterol keeps those phospholipids together. So cholesterol will be this one's over here, if you can see them between the phospholipids. So it will be I. And carbohydrates will be C. So for this lesson, we're just going to talk about carbohydrates. We're not going to talk about glycoproteins or glycolipids. That's when a carbohydrate is attached to a protein or a phospholipid. That we're going to leave, for high school. But here in the middle school, think about carbohydrate and all those structures over here. Okay? So that's basically your review of the cell membrane. Remember, you have your notes. You can take your notes out if you did not remember this part. Now, I want you to take a minute to copy this down on a piece of paper. Okay, we're going to use this diagram to summarize all the information that I'm going to provide you in this video. Okay, so copy it down. Now we're going to talk about type of transport. So the first one is passive transport. Passive transport meaning does not require energy. Okay? That means, this is an example here of the cell membrane. So that means these particles are small enough that can go through the cell membrane. Okay? And we call this process diffusion. And diffusion, if you remember, is the movement of particles from high concentration to low concentration. So it's going with the flow from high to low. Okay, so it goes from high concentration, there's more here, to low concentration. Okay, so I'm going to put here an example. Okay, so let's say this is a cell and I have these molecules here and I have these molecules here, right? So where do you think the molecules are going to move? Okay, the molecules are going to move from where there's more, and if you see I have 5 molecules here, 3 here, so where there's more to where there's less. Okay, so they're going to go from high to low concentration. Okay, so that's diffusion. Let's do another example. So let's say I have the cell over here, and I have 2 molecules here, and I have a bunch of molecules here. So where those molecules are going to go? Again, from high concentration, high concentration to low concentration. Okay? So our first recording on our diagram that cell transport that does not require energy is passive transport. Passive happens with the flow, no energy. And we saw that our first process was diffusion. Okay, where molecules move from high concentration to low concentration. So we have here another passive transport, that means does not require energy. It's called facilitated diffusion. Facilitated because it has a helper protein or a channel protein. You can hear both, channel protein. So these proteins are the integral proteins, the ones that I told you that were embedded, that help greater or bigger molecules go from high concentration to low concentration. Remember, these molecules over here are big enough that cannot go through here, so they use integral proteins to help them go from one side to another. If you see in this animation, smaller molecules can cross through the cell membrane. These bigger molecules over here are not able to. So those molecules will need a transport protein to help them cross. So going back to our diagram, we have diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and I put here helper protein. So you can remember why it's called facilitated, right? These proteins are helping out, facilitating that cross from one side to another of those molecules. Move forward, there's one more that also needs a transport protein, but we call it different. We call it osmosis. So osmosis is the movement of water. It's diffusion of water from high concentration to low concentration. Just scientists like to complicate themselves and they change the name because it's for special molecule water. Movement of water from high concentration to low. Okay, osmosis, diffusion of water from high concentration to low concentration. Okay, the next type of transport is active transport. Active because it requires energy. Right? When you're active, you're playing around, you need a lot of energy to get all those things done. So the same thing requires energy. Also, because it's moving things from low concentration to high concentration. So if you see over here, we have a lot of these molecules over here, and we have less molecules of this here. For some reason, the cell wants more of them. Usually, by diffusion, this molecule will tend to go from high to low, right? That's what we talk about. But in this case, the cell wants more of these specific molecules. So it will bring them in, but to be able to do that, because it's going against the flow, against the current, right? It's going to take some energy, and this energy is called ATP energy. So this ATP energy will allow those the cell to bring those molecules in. So they're going to go from low concentration to high concentration, okay, against the gradient, concentration gradient. So think about if you're trying to swim against the current, right, you will need a lot of energy to be able to move because you're swimming against it. So that's basically what active transport is. So in your diagram, you're going to write requires ATP energy. We're talking about active energy or active. Okay? Transport. Oh, I forgot to add this one that we talked about, osmosis over here. That's the fusion of water. Okay, moving on. Here we're going to talk about endocytosis. This is a type of active transport. So endo, we broke this word last time, but let's do it again. Endo, enter or entering the cell. Cyto, cell. So endocytosis means enter the cell, entering the cell. So if you see, it's entering the cell from outside. So here, the cell engulfs, creates a vesicle, and basically like hugs around the particles to go inside the cell. Okay, so when it engulfs it, it takes it in. Whatever materials it wants, it takes it in to the cell. And that's called endocytosis, entering the cell. Those particles are entering the cell by this structure that creates a structure. Here you can see having it closely. See, it engulfs the particles that it wants, and then it takes it into the cell through a vesicle. Okay, so for active transport, we're going to add sodium-potassium pump and endocytosis as part of active transport because they require energy. Now we're going to break down the second process is exocytosis. Exo means exit, cyto cell, so that means these particles are going to exit the cell. Usually are waste or harmful things that the cell doesn't want is going to get rid of it. Okay, and again, it's going from low concentration to high concentration. That's why it's active. So if you see here, these particles are going outside the cell. Here you will see this vesicle forms over here, so engulfs these materials and is going to take them out of the cell. It's going to fuse with the cell membrane, taking them out of the cell. So our last process of active transport is exocytosis. That means materials or waste are exiting the cell. And that will be everything for today.